So, the worst list. I've noted lately that these are becoming kind of unfashionable. Think piece after think piece of questioning why we focus on the negativity. Suffice to say, I think this is a pretty obvious bad criticism. I mean, obviously, art criticism isn't a binary categorization of good and bad. And also, I get it. I'm tired and run down too. 2019 was the worst year on the record, which I keep saying every year, interestingly. But some of the worst movies this year and some of the biggest disappointments are by far more interesting and more important experiences. Some of them I may never want to rewatch again, but my god, they get into my head. These are those movies. And any film critic who doesn't defend their right to be critical should probably check out. I am one negatively loaded boy. Here are the 5 worst films of 2019 and the 5 biggest disappointments. So number 1, I just came out of Star Wars. I adored this trilogy. I love the idea of a new generation of characters inheriting the mythos of Star Wars. It's a bit meta even. So this trilogy really has only one question to answer, to validate its own purpose, and that's, what does that mean? What does it mean to inherit Star Wars, and what do we do with that lesson? The Force Awakens begun to form an answer, The Last Jedi had an answer, and then it seems it's been just cut off. There was no purpose to this sequel trilogy other than Disney bought the rights. And it's so cynically apparent now that it feels like I've been wasting my time with this trilogy. Sure, making money is the goal of every blockbuster, every movie, they're commodities, baby. But you're meant to disguise that fact. And this film had no intent, no artistic vision. No justification for its own existence, which is something that, love them or hate them, the prequels have in spades. That's one artistic vision to a fault. Yes, I blame J.J. Abrams, but mostly I blame Mike Akurio, the writer of Batman vs Superman, of which I see a lot of in this film's second and third acts. As I said on Twitter, it's definitely aloes, until it's very suddenly Batman vs Superman. But there's a moment in those final 15 minutes where I'm looking at the screen and I'm so disconnected and distanced with a ridiculous CGI standoff that it only reminded me of a feeling I felt once before in the screening of Suicide Squad in 2016. Just utter disconnect. Shocking stuff. I went into this movie ready to be proven wrong. I went in with a fresh head, although I was prepared to treat it like a comedy if need be, if the reviews were to be believed. But ultimately it comes so thick and fast, the dumb reveals are just one after another. The pace so fast you'll get epilepsy, that you don't actually get time to question anything, you don't even get a chance to laugh. A couple times I took off my 3D glasses and just held my head in my hands, just thinking, wow, this could have been one of the greatest trilogies ever, for a little bit there. Sometimes I just like the reception of movies like this rather than the films themselves, and I really hope everyone turns against this little picture. It's just Batman vs Superman again, a script which takes us from iconography to iconography, a fundamental and insulting betrayal of the characters involved, and a film that sounds like it's juggling themes but ultimately is about nothing. It's superficial and hollow, and it's the kind of corporate art I am just done with. I am so thrilled that next year Disney don't have any movies in cinemas that I want to see. In fact, I'm freed. I never have to see another Star Wars, another Marvel, another live-action remake. I'm done. Oh shit, maybe old man Scorsese was right all along, and just worded it in the worst way possible. For all of the fan service in this movie, I feel like the more you cared about this trilogy, the more insulted you're going to be. It's so crazy just to see 4 years of investment to these two characters just go poof in your face. Number 2, Mare. This one still stings a bit. This was what I wanted to see the most this year. There was Endgame, there was Detective Pikachu, but ultimately I wanted to see Mare because it was made by Studio Trigger, my favourite animation studio in the world, who created my favourite piece of media ever created. And Mare just feels like they made Gurren Lagann again. So why is that a disappointment? Surely that's exactly what you went for. You went for the exaggeration, the constant movement, the overblown epic proportions. But here they were just too much. It's clearly a visual spectacle, and every single frame of it does look gorgeous, but sometimes you can't see what's happening in vital action scenes, and sometimes it's not non-stop. Sometimes it's just too much overwhelming in the wrong places. You thought Star Wars was fast-paced? Mare throws about 25 episodes of anime at you in 2 hours. For a visual spectacle, there's a bizarre amount of plotting, so much of it unnecessary, predictable, or just taking up your goddamn time. Not to mention the legion of characters you're introduced to. My god, there's enough characters here for 4 seasons of a TV show, and I don't remember even one of their names. Yes, it's pretty, it looks gorgeous in places, but it's not the kind of compelling film that makes me want to even rewatch it on a Blu-ray. There's a lot of anime action films that just do a lot more with a lot less. I love hectic movies. I love movies that don't slow down or stop moving. And this one just exhausted me. Don't get me wrong, it's still sick. Like a 6, a 7. But there's a point where you just wonder what the subject of the frame is. Number 3. Endgame. I'm sure I'll cover this in the main review, but this was only a mild disappointment. I went to the IMAX cinema, I got an amazing experience out of it, probably my best theatre experience with a giant roaring IMAX crowd. Here we are sat in the foyer with headphones in just because we're on spoiler lockdown, and you know what? We did the whole popcorn blockbuster experience with a roaring crowd perfectly, intact. That's how it's meant to be done. I couldn't imagine watching this film back without a cheering audience. And don't get me wrong, the season finale excels in crowd-pleasing satisfaction, but it does not satisfy me on a character level. Yeah, feats are neat, clips are cool, moments are moments, but I'm here for these characters, and if I'm saying goodbye to them, I really want them to be done with respect. I want them to be handled well. And maybe 2 of them are. I hope none of these Avengers are your favourites, because every single character who isn't Tony or Steve gets absolutely shat on. Rocket Raccoon, no personality, could be fixed with 1 line. I hope Hulk isn't your favourite, because his character development happens off screen in a time skip. And then the movie just shrugs. We don't know what to do with you, Hulk. Sorry, I guess it's all down to you, Bruce. A character says at one point. It's not. Then his awkward love interest dies, and that should matter. It doesn't. Some people quite liked what they did with Thor in this movie, even though it couldn't decide whether it was a comedy bit or a very introspective, lowest point character drama. Ultimately, this is a film about healing, and in some regards that very much works. It's been a rough couple years. On the news, it's just Thanos after Thanos after Thanos. So delivering that upbeat power ending was important, but it was also incredibly hollow and superficial. Especially when the 3 characters whose arcs are leading to Thanos aren't doing shit. Drax and Thanos share no screen time. Nebula gets no real payoff against her own father. Instead, that role, that action scene is given to the boys. The boys in Captain Marvel. My god, what a mistake, what a miscalculation. I mean, if you could see me in the theatre cheering like everyone else when Doctor Strange comes back on screen, then yeah, you'd wonder why it turns up on my most disappointing list. It's because I don't want to rewatch this one. And I've rewatched Infinity War about 10 times. Yes, it's satisfying. Yes, it makes you want to punch the goddamn air with some satisfying endings. And by that I mean 2 satisfying endings. But the Russos have been proving that you can make a punch the air blockbuster and also a brilliant character crossover drama at the same time. And one of those definitely suffers more than the other in this. But that said, it remains a million light years above The Rise of Skywalker. I hope in the years ahead this is shown as an example of planned good franchise storytelling and people just look at The Rise of Skywalker and laugh. But ultimately I agree with my friend Austin. the overblown funeral scene that takes up 15 minutes of runtime, I probably should be crying about the death of one of my favourite fictional characters of the decade. And I'm just not. I did a week later though in the Talking Dog movie. How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World. Don't judge me, okay? We were close to another perfect trilogy let down by a meek final installment. The first is a harmless but really quite expansive children's movie. The second is like a war epic that just ups the stakes in a very Empire Strikes Back manner. The third one, well, I guess it's Return of the Jedi. I don't really know what this one's trying to do. There's lots of plot beats just repeated, the stakes feel smaller than ever before. And the inevitable split-up, the breakup movie of Toothless and Hiccup isn't a major source of drama. It's just an accepted thing he has to do. He's got to go back to his own people. It's got to happen. Like, I've seen this. It was called Bye Bye Butterfree. An emotion I experienced just fine when I was 8. Mostly, it's a lot of characters standing around waiting for the plot to come. Yeah, there'll be another evil flying dragon, and there'll be wacky scenes as the sidecast, the lovable sidecast, get up to hijinks. But I think you've really dropped the ball when the finale of your trilogy, like a really revered trilogy for DreamWorks, feels like filler. Plus we saw it in 4DX. We were here waiting, ready to cry our eyes out, and the seats are just bashing us in the back. That was like the big trick it had, just punching us in the back. Sometimes I wish I'd caught the original How to Train Your Dragon in cinemas. Perhaps even 3D IMAX, because that film looks gorgeous today. And I did, and it was How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Lost World. The Hidden World? I don't care. And last of all, Rocket Man. I saw Rocket Man with my parents. It was the one where I could get my mum to the cinema for the first time this decade. So that was an achievement. I just wish the UK viewing public, the general public, weren't told which movies were going to be big. Everyone was just suddenly talking about Rocket Man and nothing but Rocket Man for 2 weeks. And then it went away and nobody ever spoke about it again. You know, like this biopic of a gay artist is just a boomer trend. Because, hey, remember Elton John? The kids might be informed by TikToks and fidget spinners, but the adults are just told whatever they like by Strictly every year. Which I assume is why I had an audience of snickering playground children who I turned around and were actually 50 plus years old, laughing at every single gay slur and moments of physical abuse. Love to see it. Oh, they said the F word. Please grow the fuck up. There wasn't a joke there. This is actually the film's source of drama. Go to sleep, Doris. They'll play the song in 5 minutes. And it's a shame because parts of this movie are fantastic. They actually kick ass. There's about 10 minutes of an awkward, kid prologue with the most cartoonishly evil dad, I hate music and gay people, go to your room. And then Elton just sort of Tarzans into a 25-year-old man and delivers Saturday Night's Alright for Fighting. Amazing song and dance number. Kind of blows its load in the first 10 minutes, honestly. But what's weird is that this is actually my favourite performance of the year. Taron Egerton kills it as Elton John in terms of music, in terms of performance. He makes it a very powerful role. It's flamboyant and campy, but also so cool and empowering. I get Elton John now. I also happen to prefer some of his covers. I'm Still Standing by Taron Egerton is my favourite version of the song. But ultimately, a biopic is a biopic is a biopic, and I've seen this movie actually many times before, with different guises. It flits between quite impressive and incredibly cringeworthy. The final, where is he now, in the credits says Elton John's gotten over his drinking and drug abuse. But he still loves shopping! He's addicted to shopping! And it's like, wow, that sucked. That's the final note you want to go out on? Classy. It's not a classy movie. And by the halfway point, I'd pretty much worked out it was designed, intended for the boomer demographic I was sitting in. So those are the biggest 5 disappointments of the year, the 5 films you've actually heard about. Here's the 5 real fucking dredges. Oh, Ramona. ooh, imagine In-Betweeners, but made in Romania, and it's genuinely creepy to the point of sociopathy. You don't just want to punch this main character, you want to make sure he's strangled and dead and gone. Every character is just the worst depiction imaginable. What a sleazy, skeezy movie. I'm not even sure if skeezy's a word, but it just felt right. Every single moral learned is wrong. Every single lesson reinforces bad behaviour. It's not often you can describe a film as rapist friendly. And it's so clearly made by a grown woman who just never got over high school. Fucking hell, the most shocking thing about this film is that woman made it. Just a juvenile, delinquent movie that I think honestly is a step even too awful for the worst frat boys out there. And even then, why would you want to imagine yourself as this kid? It desperately wants to be the In-Betweeners, but there's no wit. Ugly stereotyping, awful cliches. The film will stop at various intervals to blatantly rip off Scott Pilgrim. A fucking despair watch that for some reason I stuck it through to the end. Enter the Anime was Netflix's self-promotion advert for some of the anime series they've been putting out. They talked to a couple creators behind series like Agretsuko and Castlevania. Shows I really like that I'd like to learn more about. But Enter the Anime isn't about Netflix anime. Enter the Anime is about Alex Baranova, a documentarian who does the most hack thing you could possibly do in a documentary, make it about you. Well, here's my experience learning about certain anime shows. May Agnes Varda you are not. Get ready to learn about such subjects as Alex, Alex's dog, and Alex's style, because the editing is so frantic in your face for subjects that contributors don't get a chance to breathe. What it's doing right now, it does it the entire way through, never stopping to actually interview the people involved. The most in-depth discussion we get with Adi Shankar is his motherfucking power glove. But very quickly, Enter the Anime turns out to be a BuzzFeed article that lasts 90 minutes that actually has no interest in representing or talking about the anime industry, but instead going around insulting a bunch of Japanese people in their home country. Every 15 minutes on the dot, this idiot, racist, white girl westerner just looks introspectively outwards, out the window, and wonders, what is anime? She says it so many times, like she's trying to get deeper to the subject, without actually going deeper into anything. Instead, I'd much rather point the camera at dresses and masks and weird cultural differences. Hi, how does it feel to be kawaii Dezune? Fucking hateable, laudable trash. I want this movie to shut the fuck up. How's that for a review? Which is sad because it talks to some actual interesting creatives for about 10 seconds, and is clearly highly produced with a lot of money in it. So why did you feel the need to hire this vapid, personality vacuum, ADHD BuzzFeed lady? This isn't a documentary, this is content. And never before have I seen content with such actual lack of substance and filling. There is no content. I've made terrible, shitty documentaries from 2015 with a one-person production and a bad camera that have more artistic integrity and swerve more of the amateur hour documentary student cliches than this Netflix show does. My mind is boggled. How have we reached this level of superficiality? This film genuinely makes me question stuff like that. It's an Instagram story. But no, look at the poster, it calls itself a film, and that fact is fucking terrifying. Number 3 is Dooba, which is a film involving creatives I like, comedians, so I find it very funny. Sucked out of everything that makes them unique and starring in an Uber advert, and a plot where Uber eats is like the save the day plot point. So this one's self-evident. Man, I've been swinging for Dave Bautista in the last couple years. The guy's a fucking class act. He's like The Rock, but with charisma and acting lessons, and actually has a couple high-profile films under his belts. And then he goes ahead and makes a Dwayne The Rock Johnson movie. It's weird that I just didn't even laugh once in this film. That's strange, considering how funny the main cast are meant to be. But to surmise, this is just like a advert jingle of a film. This is like a band who make songs for laptop commercials. And it makes me specifically fear about a paranoid dystopian nightmare world where all art and songs are marketing and advert jingles and in service of a higher power of promotion. Because yeah, we're headed there, and it's movies like this that remind me it could be sooner than I think. Then there was Alien Warfare, which was a film, bless his heart, was trying its very hardest. Just a no-budget action sci-fi that wanted to be Michael Bay. I mean, when you're aspiring for Independence Day resurgence, and you have enough budget for Sharknado, most production teams would say, it's time to rethink this. But they didn't. They didn't step back, and they went for it, the brave motherfuckers. And this is what you get. Cool fucking action military guy says equipped to other action military guy. And they're just all trying their damnedest to be cool. But outside, a 1960 Doctor Who episode is happening. And honestly, it was done better then. I'd go into more detail, but who gives a shit? Like, you've already got the vibe and the gist of this B-movie, right? No more's required? Cool. Usually, I have more fun with them, though. Which is a perfect transition for our final film, Reborn. There are a lot of easy targets this year on websites like Netflix or Amazon Prime, Now TV. And me, little post-ironic dickhead I am, laps them all up. I was kind of like a machine this year. Largely because of unemployment, I just started watching everything I could, even just watching stuff for the sake of it. And Reborn was absolutely that. I wanted a trash movie with like a little toy puppet, and yeah, I got that, but I also didn't want it to take itself so seriously. Look, I came here for some B-movie horror. I wanted to make some The Boy jokes about the mannequin dolls. But instead, it's a student production taking itself so seriously. So importantly, we're in Stalin Russia with this guy, with this face, trying to participate in like drama war scenes and political intrigue. And it's like, no dude, you're the fucking haunted puppet movie. Bring out the guy with the gun. And then they bring out the guy with the gun, and that's pretty sick. But then it goes immediately back. And even the highs just aren't worth it. And that's all there is to say, because I think that's all we really tuned into. When it comes to the cinema, when I'm talking actual paying money for tickets, I swerve a lot of the trash. I don't make myself see Hobbs and Shaw, Dumbo, Aladdin. I take a fucking pass, because I don't want them having my money. The Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson smellies of the year. No thank you. But it seems like there just wasn't a lot of bad stuff this year. I had to really dig to find it. From Disney, Netflix, Warner Brothers, all across the board, just quite middling to good movies. And I'm taken aback by that. It just turns out that the films I was really rooting for going into 2019 turned out to be some of the most painful ones to think about now. Frustrating, rather than full-on disappointed. I wish I could say 2020 looks brighter, but sorry, we live in Hellverse now. But who cares? On to the next thing. There's always a new thing.